video we're going to show you how to use the for loop in a Python program and to understand the purpose of the stepper variable. We often need to be able to repeat something a certain number of times, and we have two ways of looping to repeat something in Python. One's the for loop, the other's the while loop. These examples are going to show you how you would use the for loop. I'm just going to use the shell to show you some of these. So use the keyword for, and the for loop is used when you know how many times you want to repeat something for. Now the next bit of syntax we have is a variable, and the variable that we use is called a stepper variable, and it steps through the iterations that we need. Then we have the word in, and then a list that we're going to iterate through. So in this case, I've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a list, and then I want to print hello world. I'll just put it in and you can see what happens. And then actually it's printed hello world 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, once for each time in the list. Once there, then once for that one, and once for each item in the list. Now there's another way of writing the same number of times, and that's by using the range statement. And this is what we would normally do. So if I, instead of that, say range 6, that actually creates a list that has in it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6 items. And then if I say, as I did before, hello world, I've now got hello world 6 times. So that's obviously an easier way of iterating a certain number of times, but what actually range 6 does is creates a list from 0 to 5. So that's a simple example of how you would set up a for loop and then do something a certain number of times. Now what's actually happening to this variable here? So let's print this out, this variable, and see what's happening to variable count. So let's do the same example again, range 6, and then print open brackets count to see what happens there. And actually you're printing the value of count, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 each time. So it shows you that count is taking on the value of each of the items in this list generated by range 6. So what else might you want to do with a for loop? You might want to write a different subset of numbers. So if we said range 3, 7, and then write print count, this would give us printing out of 3, 4, 5 and 6. Note it stops before it gets to the 7, just like it stopped before it got to the 6 here. So the first argument when you've got 2 is the starting point, and the second argument is 1 before the stopping point. You can also use a step, so if you wanted to print out numbers between 2 and 50, but in gaps of 2, then you can see we've printed out 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc. all the way up to, but not including 50, so all the way up to 48. So that shows you that the stepper variable will take on the values that are generated by this list, and this list has a start and a stopping point, and the third argument, if it's there, is the gap, the jump between each of the items in the list. And there's some simple examples of using the for loop. In summary, this video has shown you some examples of using the for loop in the shell. The for loop is just one of two types of loops that we might use in Python. We'll also be looking at the while loop.